Good evening. Never underestimate the power of dreams and the influence of the human spirit. The potential of greatness lives within each one of us. Words of Wilma Rudolph. Welcome to BMC English News Live. Myself, Marina Francis, joining you with the news updates. Today's news in detail. 78.5% in the 12 to 17 age group vaccinated. Bahrain has vaccinated 78.5% of children aged between 12 and 17, according to the National Task Force for Combating the Coronavirus Monitoring Committee Head Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Manaf Al-Khatani. Also, Bahrain has conducted almost 1 million rapid antigen detection tests for the coronavirus among school children since August last year, it has been revealed. This helped in keeping the test positivity rate among children, the vulnerable group, low and to reopen the schools in Bahrain, said the National Task Force for Combating the Coronavirus Monitoring Committee Head, Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Manaf Al-Khatani. Layoffs drop 9% during COVID peak. Bahrain recorded a 9% drop in layoffs during the peak of the pandemic compared to 2019, according to a labor official. Anurag Thakur, the Indian Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports, and Ayman Tawfiq Al-Moyed, the Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports in Bahrain, held a virtual meeting on boosting bilateral ties. The ministers discussed ways to enhance engagement across diverse sectors despite challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic. Discussions also focused on youth, student and cultural exchanges and creating opportunities for young entrepreneurs of both countries in the startup environment. The ministers also explored possibilities for increased interaction in the sports sector. Thakur briefed about India's skilling initiative and how it could be tailored to suit the youth of both countries. The ministers also shared their desire to hold an in-person meeting at the earliest opportunity. Strengthen joint Arab action for food security, Bahrain minister tells GCC states. Works Minister yesterday stressed the importance of developing sustainable agricultural policies that enhance food security in the Gulf Cooperation Council member states. Developing cooperation between GCC nations in agricultural, animal and fisheries sectors are crucial for food security, Essam Khalaf, the Minister of Works, Municipalities Affairs and Urban Planning, said. He also urged the need for strengthening joint Gulf action for the post-coronavirus pandemic. The minister was chairing the 31st Agricultural Cooperation Committee of the Ministers of the GCC member states. The GCC Agricultural Cooperation Committee, the minister said, is completing the steps towards achieving sustainable and agricultural policies and developing cooperation in agriculture, animal husbandry and fisheries among GCC nations. The meeting discussed various issues facing the agricultural sectors, policies and mechanisms for achieving food security in partnership with the private sector, a unified quarantine law, establishing a genetic asset bank and the usage of fertilizers. Bahrain companies told to make articles of incorporation both in Arabic and English. From now onwards, companies in the kingdom, except for joint venture companies, should have their articles of incorporation and all amendments both in English and Arabic and documented by a notary, without which their contracts will become void. The move is according to a new set of amendments approved by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa yesterday in the Commercial Companies Law. Articles of incorporation are a set of formal documents that establish the creation of a corporation. It generally contains pertinent information such as the firm's name, street address, agent for service of process, and the amount and type of stock to be issued. One of the amendments also focuses on the remuneration of the chairman and the board members of a company. Out of 16,656 COVID-19 tests carried out yesterday in Bahrain, 64 new cases have been detected. Of these, 33 were expatriate workers, 28 contacts of active cases and 3 travel related. There were also 98 recoveries reported. Bahrain outclassed Uzbekistan in Asian volleyball. Bahrain outclassed Uzbekistan yesterday in the 21st Asian Senior Men's Volleyball Championship at Funabashi Arena in Japan. It was the nationals' first Pool G game of the 9th to 16th classification round after missing out on a chance to compete in the top 8. The Bahrainis did well to control the contest and made the most of their opportunities. Mohammad Anan top scored with 14 points, including 12 attacks for Bahrain. Hussein Al-Jeshi and Nasser Anan added 9 points apiece, while Ali Ibrahim had 5 and Mohammad Abdul Wahid 4 points. Bahrain rise to 91st on FIFA World Ranking. Bahrain have risen 3 places to 91st on the latest edition of the FIFA World Ranking as the senior men's national team continue to enjoy their best standing in over a decade. The Bahrainis improved to 1,251.31 points on the newest table, which was released yesterday by Global Football's governing body. It is the first time Bahrain have ranked higher than its best 2010 ranking of 93rd in the world. Bahrain have also moved up to 13th in the Asian Football Confederation. Now we shall be back after a very short break. Welcome back. 80% of population fully vaccinated in the UAE. The UAE has administered 83,410 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine in the past 24 hours. The country's Ministry of Health and Prevention said the total doses administered now stand at 19.2 million. This takes the rate of doses to 194.6 per 100 people. As of September 16th, 91.32% of the UAE's population has received the first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, with 80.29% having received 2 doses and fully vaccinated. Kuwait Prime Minister says we are few steps away from normalcy. Kuwait's Prime Minister, His Highness Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al Hamad Al Sabah, said on Thursday, Kuwait is a few steps away from returning to a normal life, which means we increase vaccination rates and abide by health safety precautions. In a statement for Kuwait TV on the sidelines of his visit to the new Fawania Hospital project, the Prime Minister said, we have very low numbers of infections and vaccination rates have reached 70%, which is a very good standard according to the international statistics. We must renew our gratitude and appreciation to the Kuwaiti medical team that faced the pandemic and reward them not only financially but with recognition of their efforts also, he added. Saudi calls for expat fee to be made proportionate to income. A member of the Shura Council demanded that the expatriate's fee should be proportionate to what he receives as income in a month. Attending the council session, he said that the expat fee has become an obstacle for the growth of small and medium enterprises. Kohli to quit as India's T20 captain after World Cup. Star batsman Virat Kohli announced that he will give up the India 2020 captaincy after the World Cup that starts next month. The T20 World Cup will begin 2 days after the IPL ends on October 15th in the UAE and Oman, with the final scheduled on November 14th. Kohli, a prolific top-order batsman, led India to the final of the 2017 Champions Trophy and the semi-final of the 2019 50-over World Cup. Kohli captained India in a total of 45 T20 matches with 27 wins, 14 losses and 2 tied games. Italy to make COVID-19 Green Pass obligatory for employees. Italy will be the first country in Europe to impose an obligation on private and public sector employees to show evidence of a coronavirus vaccination or negative test results. On Thursday, the government of Prime Minister Mario Draghi decided to expand the country's existing Green Pass, meaning that henceforth those who cannot show a certificate are no longer allowed to go to work in offices, shops or restaurants from October 15th. In Italy, 75% of people over the age of 12 had been vaccinated by Thursday. New Zealand extends pause to travel bubble with Australia. New Zealand announced Friday it will keep its border closed to Australia for at least another 8 weeks. The so-called Trans-Tasman bubble began in April and allowed Australians and New Zealanders to travel between the two countries without the need to quarantine. However, New Zealand paused the bubble in July as Australia struggled to contain new COVID-19 outbreaks. When the bubble was established, both countries had very few recent cases of community transmission and a similar elimination strategy, COVID-19 response minister Chris Hipkins said. China astronauts return after 90 days aboard space station. A trio of Chinese astronauts returned to Earth Friday after a 90-day stay aboard their nation's first space station in China's longest mission yet. Ni Hashing, Liu Boming and Tang Hongbo landed in the Shenzhou 12 spaceship just after 1:30 p.m. after having undocked from the space station Thursday morning. China has sent 14 astronauts into space since 2003, when it became only the third country after the former Soviet Union and the United States to do so on its own. China vaccinated 1 billion people, that is 72% of the country. Chinese health officials say more than 1 billion people have been fully vaccinated in the world's most populous country. That represents 72% of its 1.4 billion people. A National Health Commission spokesperson says 2.16 billion doses have been administered and 1.01 billion have been fully vaccinated. China has largely stopped the spread by imposing restrictions and mass testing whenever new cases are found. It also limits entry to the country and requires people who arrive to quarantine in a hotel for at least 2 weeks. Study says Pfizer-BioNTech booster raises COVID-19 protection for seniors. A COVID-19 booster vaccination with Pfizer-BioNTech for people over 60 years old considerably increases the protective effect, according to a study. There were more than 10 times as many proven infections and almost 20 times as many severe illnesses among people with 2 jabs than among people who had received a third shot in Israel, Israeli researchers wrote in the New England Journal of Medicine. Global COVID-19 caseload tops 226.97 million. The number of people who contracted the novel coronavirus has exceeded 226.97 million people, while 4,872,573 people have passed away due to the pandemic, according to a Reuters tally. Infections have been reported in more than 210 countries and territories since the first cases were identified in China in December 2019. Facebook rolls out new messaging business tools for brands. Facebook Incorporated is rolling out new ways for businesses to find and chat with potential customers on its apps, the social media company said Thursday, as it seeks to become an online shopping destination. The new features will help Facebook, already a leader in digital advertising, offer personalized shopping experiences to its users, said Karandeep Anand, Vice President of Business Products at Facebook. Businesses will now be able to add a button on their Instagram profiles to let people send a WhatsApp message to the company with one click. Integrating WhatsApp is particularly important for customers in countries such as India and Brazil, where the Facebook-owned messaging app is widely used, Anand said. With that news, we come to the end of today's news updates. Stay tuned to BMC News Live for the daily news updates in English every day at 7:30 p.m. Good night.